What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and it's that time of the month again. We're going to be looking at Sword and Shield top 20 singles cards and all the sealed products from that era as well, and seeing how the prices have moved month over month. Now, we started doing this way back in September, only 6 months ago, but we've been doing it for 6 months, and I think it is a really cool kind of value add series that we do here on the channel, because it helps us keep the finger on the pulse of how things are moving in these different eras, right? I do it for Sword and Shield, I do it for Sun and Moon, I do it for XY. I haven't done a video on it yet, but I've been warehousing the data for Scarlet and Violet too, because I think at some point, maybe middle of this year, maybe even the beginning of next year, we'll start looking at that from a graph perspective and seeing how that moves, because guess what? I want to have that Scarlet and Violet data, like how did it perform in year 1, year 2, and year 3 for whatever the next era is going to be, right? And this stuff, like this information is really cool to have today. Like I enjoy seeing how it moves month over month. I really think it helps us keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on, but what really gets me excited is I can't imagine to see these graphs in the next 12, 18, 24 months. Now, I just said graphs. Yes, that's right, because I think if you want to tell a story, the best way to do it is to use a graph. So I have changed the way that I'm going to present this to you, because I think this is the most impactful way and the cleanest way to look at it. So this is the total of the top 20 singles card prices in the entire Sword and Shield set for all sets that have booster boxes, right? So we're not talking any specialty sets, right? We're talking your Evolving Skies, your Sword and Shield base, the regular sets, so there's 12 of them, right? And in September, the total value for the top 20 cards from those 12 sets was $6,790, right? In October, when we looked at it again, the total value had dropped to $6,282, right? For it went down 7.48%. And then you can read, the graph there in the middle, and you can also see the data chart there on the left and see how it's been performing, right? So from November to December, it was actually positive, right? We'd watch these singles cards really take a downward turn, September to October, October to November, and then November to December, we were like, praise Jesus, hallelujah. The singles cards are up 1%. Could the crash be over? Are we starting to see things turn around? And I think there's actually some validity and there's some truth in that, because December to January, it was only down 0.84%. And then January to February, it's been down 0.5%. Now, down is still down, but we certainly can say, at least in my mind, that at least the crash, right, these crazy month over month price drops seems to, at least for now, kind of be out of the market. But when you look at it as a whole, from September to February, right, over that entire time frame, over the last 6 months, the total value of those top 20 singles cards from the Sword and Shield set are down 10.4%. Like, look at that graph. So yes, a lot of the drop is in there. A lot of that came from September to October, October to November, and we are starting to see it flatten out. That's why I've started to do some single card videos, right? Like, we're going to talk about price movements in a lot of individual sets. If you want to know some of the specific cards that I'm going after, I dropped a video on Friday about my favorite cards from Sword and Shield that are under $20. And I have another video that's coming out tomorrow where I'm talking about my favorite Sword and Shield cards under $10. So you're going to see a lot of high level stuff here. If you want the nitty gritty on the singles cards, check out those two videos. Now, I also did this graph not just for the top 20 singles cards, but I also did it for the booster boxes, because I think this tells an incredible story right here, right? Now, you see that from September really to November, all the way into December, it kind of followed the same trend that those top 20 singles cards did, right? Overall, the whole Pokemon market as a whole, not just Sword and Shield, also in Sun and Moon, like things were on the downward spiral, right? They were correcting. I know we use the words crash and correction kind of interchangeably, which we really shouldn't. Things got too high because of the pandemic. Everybody was piling in, and I think we were still on the tail end of seeing those prices start to come back down. So I call this a normalization. But then in January and February, we've seen that snap back, right? Like where we saw the flatness in the last graph for the singles cards, now in the booster boxes, we're starting to see some pretty good gains. So much so that if you go from September to now, booster boxes are up 1.9%. Again, this is the total cost of all booster boxes from Sword and Shield sets that have booster boxes, right? So this type of information is really cool. So now that we're done looking at it at a high level view, we're going to get into the individual sets and the individual cards and the individual products and how they've been moving from January to February. So before we get into that, let me say this. If this type of stuff excites you, if you enjoy this kind of data-driven analysis, listen, we do this stuff all the time on the channel, so hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below, and as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. Those three small things go a long way in helping my small channel out, and I really appreciate it. So with that being said, here's Silver Tempest and here's Lost Origin. Now, on the very last month's slide, this exact same slide, I said Lost Origin singles have been slowing for 3 months. Will next month be green? Well, guess what? It popped green. Look at all that green in Lost Origin. I don't speak in definitives. I don't say always. I don't say never, or at least I try not to. I have this saying that when you say always and never, you're usually wrong. Like, definitives are almost always incorrect. But up until this point, when we've been tracking this data here in the month-over-month movements, every time up to this point, when we have seen a set's top 20 singles cards down 3 months in a row, the fourth month it always seems to pop positive. And I don't know if that's because the market has just been seeing these prices get super low. We talk about support lines. Like, I don't know if it takes 3 months for these sets and these cards to hit the support point, but up until this point, every single time we've seen that happen, and look at all the strength in Lost Origin. I'm super bullish on Lost Origin in the long run, so I think that card and that set has a lot of upside, especially the Giratina, right? The Giratina was down to $235, got a ton of support, and it bounced back up again, another month of gains for that card. Now, the opposite of that is you look at the Lugia from Silver Tempest, right? It was really fighting hard. It was really up in the mid to high 120s, and then it has just absolutely fallen off the table here over the last month. It's back down to $115. You've heard me talk a lot about, I think Silver Tempest was just getting its butt kicked there for a while. I need to see Silver Tempest show some strength. I need to see Silver Tempest start to turn it around. Now, if you look in the bottom half of both these sets, like the bottom 10, 12 cards, lots of price movement. Okay, so are we going to see that strength down in the bottom start to funnel up into the top, right? Who knows, but it's something that we're going to keep an eye on, and maybe we'll find another cool pattern like we found when we said, hey, listen, if a set has the average cost of the top 20 cards down 3 months in a row, month 4, it's always positive. That's what we're looking for here. We're looking for trends so we can play chess when everybody else plays checkers. Now, getting in the next two right here, Astral Radiance and Brilliant Stars. Now, Brilliant Stars. It was doing well. It had a real strong run there from the single card perspective, but it absolutely got knocked down a peg or two. Look at all that red. Just an absolute bloodbath in Brilliant Stars singles. It really tried to pop up, and it just didn't have the wherewithal, and it's fallen down. Another thing I'll say too is Astral Radiance didn't do terrible. Yeah, it's down 1% month over month, but in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty darn close to flat, right? And I do wonder at times, like, is Astral Radiance getting overlooked? Like, there's trainer galleries in there. There's some awesome alt arts, right? Like that Machamp alt art is absolute fire. I just feel like Astral Radiance, for whatever reason, doesn't get the love that it deserves. I know Lost Origin is awesome, Brilliant Stars is great, Fusion Strike is great, Chilling Reign is great, Evolving Skies is great. Maybe there's just too much greatness in the Sword and Shield era for Astral Radiance to get the love, and Silver Tempest, for that matter, to get the love that it deserves. But I have a lot of faith in a lot of Astral Radiance cards. I talk about that a lot in the two videos I referenced earlier. The other thing that's interesting to note is we've looked at 4 total sets so far. So obviously each set has top two cards, right? So that's 8 total cards. 6 of those top 2 cards have actually been down month over month. I don't get excited when I see weakness at the top. I'm always looking for those top cards to really outperform. But it's going to be interesting to see where this lands. And Brilliant Stars booster boxes is something I wanted to call out to. When that price of the booster boxes start getting north of what they are at the Pokemon Center, a lot of times we see them flip to sold out on the Pokemon Center, because why would you buy it on the secondary market when you can buy it cheaper at the Pokemon Center? And once it flips to sold out on the Pokemon Center, I think it's going to be game over. I think Brilliant Stars booster boxes are going to go for a big run here. Now, the next ones we're talking about, Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies, right? Speaking about booster boxes that went on a run, right? Fusion Strike flipped to sold out on the Pokemon Center just for a hot minute. Everybody got all excited, and then it was back in stock within about 24, 48 hours. But the booster boxes still have a little bit of upside in them there, still a little bit north of the price on the Pokemon Center. So we shall see if there's a big restock, or not even a restock. We shall see how long the current stock at the Pokemon Center lasts for Fusion Strike. But when you think about it too, look at Evolving Skies. I mean, Evolving Skies booster boxes have been on an absolute tear. I know that price there says $470-ish, right? But I mean, the buy it nows on eBay are right about $500. If you work really hard, you can hunt and peck and probably get an auction, you know, in the $470, $480 range. But I mean, that is every bit of a $500 box right now. I was recently at a card show and everybody had $500 plus on their Evolving Skies booster boxes. Obviously, you could negotiate and get that down a little bit. Just saying that there is a lot of momentum for Evolving Skies getting north of $500 in a very short amount of time. Now, Fusion Strike singles are down. Now, that is something that I want to keep an eye on, because as soon as Fusion Strike, I think out of all these awesome sets that we're looking at, and we'll talk about Chilling Reign here in a minute, when Fusion Strikes flips to sold out on the Pokemon Center from a booster box perspective, I really want to keep a close eye on how these singles move to see if there's any correlation to booster box price going up and singles price going up. So the Gengar that's in there, that's one of my favorite cards. In December, it had a huge price spike, and it's been able to hold on. It's been down 1% this month. Last month, it was down 1%. Again, pretty close to flat after having a big jump in December. So we'll see if that card continues to do well. And the other thing we talk about a lot here is we talk about this average to booster box price ratio. It's at the very bottom down there in the yellow box. These sets have historically been at the very top, right? But now they're ranked number 3 and number 4. And coming in at number 2 on the last one was actually Lost Origin, which we talked about earlier. Usually Fusion Strike has been number 2, or Evolving Skies has been number 2. So it's interesting to see that rank flip. Again, top 4 here, when we talk about the average price of the top 20 cards versus their booster box price, it's a ratio. We've done a ton of work into it in the past, and it really has been a good indicator of future price appreciation. So, I mean, Lost Origin might be onto something here, but interesting to see these two awesome sets and how they're performing. Now, the one that has been number 1 in the booster box to price ratio for the last 5 months, and a set that's been performing really well, which further emboldens, our thought that ratio, has a pretty good leading indicator for us, is Chilling Reign. And Chilling Reign booster boxes are the example, right? It's the poster child of what happens when a booster box flips to sold out on the Pokemon Center. We've seen the booster boxes going absolutely crazy here as of late. Even the singles cards have been doing well. I mean, if you look at that, a lot of strength there at the top, and that's why I'm so interested to see what's going to happen with the Fusion Strike singles when those flip to sold out. And again, listen, back-to-back months of big booster box gains for Chilling Reign. Really excited about that. Battle Styles is a set that's just not getting a lot of love, right? I'm a big fan of some of the cards in Battle Styles. I think Battle Styles is getting its tail kicked for all the wrong reasons. I know it's been a lot of print, right? This is when we're talking about the pandemic, right? You have Vivid Voltage and Battle Styles and, all these these sets that really got overprinted probably during that time to try and combat all of the scalping that was going on. But I think Battle Styles eventually will do okay, because it's got some really awesome cards in there. I love the Sleepy Tyranitar. I love the Phoebe that's in there. There's just a lot of stuff in there. But hey, guess what? The math doesn't add up. Booster box price is down. The top 20 singles cards are down. So who knows? Maybe I'm absolutely off base on Battle Styles, or maybe it'll just take a long time to get there. But interesting to see how that set has been moving month over month. Now, speaking of Vivid Voltage, here we are, and we're also looking at Darkness Ablaze right here. Now, Darkness Ablaze booster boxes, even though they're at the $140 range, that's pretty close to a 1-year high for Darkness Ablaze. I mean, I picked a couple up, 2 or 3 months ago in the 120 range, and I don't think it's because the individual cards in that set is great. Obviously, that Zard is just massively produced, right? There's all kinds of the Zard from Darkness Ablaze out there. I don't know, there's like 12 or 14,000 in PSA 10s. But I do think from a sealed play, like, it's obviously old, it's still a Charizard set. I think Sword and Shield as a whole is going to be really strong. So I was happy to pick a couple of those up in the 120 range, and so far it's been a halfway decent investment considering it's only been a couple months. Now, Vivid Voltage, that I'm also a big fan of some of the cards that are in Vivid Voltage. It's going to be really interesting to keep an eye on that Pikachu at the very top. That $100 mark is what I've kind of got circled on my radar. Like, is it going to break that $100 mark, or is this one of the cards that's set in stone? If it holds its water at $100, then I really think that in like 3, 5, 10 years from now has the opportunity to do well, especially with all of the market trials and tribulations that have been going on. It has held pretty steady at that $100 mark. So I'm not saying you should go out there and spend $100 on the card today. I'm just saying it's something that we should really keep an eye on. So again, another couple sets here where you see a lot of softness at the top. So it's going to be interesting to see how these sets pan out over the next couple months. Now, the next one's right here, Rebel Clash and Sword and Shield, rounding out the Sword and Shield block. What's exciting for me is I don't have a Rebel Clash or a Sword and Shield booster box yet. I just have always felt that their prices have been too high, and I just refuse to pull the trigger on them, because even though I want them, I'm not going to overpay for them. But we've seen the booster boxes on these two sets start to come down a little bit. Now, Sword and Shield has absolutely, from a single card perspective, been a bloodbath as of late. Like that Marnie card sitting at $40. If it gets into the 30s, I might have to pick some of that up. I mean, I already have one in a PSA 10, but I think that if it gets into the $30 range, I do think that that's a pretty awesome card, right? And I love Marnie. My wife loves Marnie, So it could just be a sentimental or a PC pickup, but who knows? I just think it's got some oomph in it. I think $30 range is a good point to pick that up. But when you look across Sword and Shield singles, all of them are down. You even see cards that are down 30%, 34%. Like, it's an absolute bloodbath over there. And then over there you see Rebel Clash. Listen, a couple months ago, every single card in the top 20 was down month over month, and we've seen some support ever since then. So when you look at Sword and Shield, not every card in the top 20 is down, but 18 of the top 20 are down. Are we going to see that type of support? Are the cards getting so low that the market is going to do what we talked about earlier, right? Where, hey, listen, it's going to hit these support lines where people are just organically going to go in there, because when they get so low and the cards are relatively awesome, there's some great cards in there, some awesome art, they might just go ahead and get picked up, and you see that flip around. So I really am excited to see this. And one of the things I talk about, not as frequently as I should, but I do keep in mind, just in the back of my mind, like how these first 4 sets from Sword and Shield have performed, to give me some idea of what I might be able to expect from Scarlet and Violet. Totally different eras, totally different cards, so you can't necessarily compare the two as a one-for-one. But when I think about Sword and Shield and that Marnie, like obviously I think about the Miriam, right, from Scarlet and Violet base. Now I do think Paldea Evolved is a much, much better set than Rebel Clash, right? And Obsidian Flames, who knows? I mean, there's more Zards in it. I don't know if it's going to end up like Darkness Ablaze. But either way, when I think of the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, I do somehow, even when I try not to, I just always start referencing these first 4 sets from Sword and Shield. And that's why I'm in no hurry to go out and pick up those booster boxes. I think there's going to be plenty available for a long, long time. I'm spending all of my Poké Dollars right now on Sword and Shield products. So listen, if you made it to the end of this, I've got Sun and Moon coming out soon. I've got XY coming out soon. And if you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. I appreciate you more than I can possibly say. I thank you for watching, and I hope you have an epic one. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.